Today we'll be having Erik Asgeirsson, CEO and President of CPAs.com, presenting the maturing of the cloud. We'll be getting started in just a few moments here. If you have not downloaded the materials for today's presentation yet, you can do so at accountantsworld.com. Just below the main panel, you'll see something that says Download Webinar Materials, and you can save that PDF to your computer. Thank you, and we'll talk to you shortly.
Thanks, Div. I appreciate being here today with the Accountants World community. Let me bring my presentation up and go into slideshow mode. Div, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. So welcome. As Div just stated, I'm Erik Asgeirsson, the President and CEO of CPA.com, and I really appreciate this opportunity to spend the next hour with you talking about how the cloud is really changing the landscape of accounting in small businesses. A little bit about CPA.com. We are a subsidiary of the AICPA. Our mission is to empower CPAs and businesses for the digital age. We provide a number of solutions to firms. Some of these solutions are through our partner companies. In addition to that, we provide marketing technology services to the AICPA. And I'm fortunate to be speaking to firms across the country, as well as many members of my team. And what I'm going to be reviewing with you today is a lot of the trends and the insights that we gain from talking to these firms, as well as talking to other thought leaders. So let me get right into it. My agenda is to first talk a little bit about the pace of change.
Erik, excuse me. Would you be able to turn up the volume a little bit? We've got a couple of people saying the volume is a little bit low.
Absolutely. I can definitely do that. I've got a good broadcast voice. How's that? And if anyone else has audio issues, please let us know. So pace of change, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, how things are accelerating. I'm also going to go into a little bit about firm strategy. It starts with the why. I'll talk about how firms are working in the cloud. I'm actually going to review a number of best practices that 3 firms are utilizing in building success in cloud computing. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new deliverables. When you step back and you look at what's happening, I think there's a recent book out that really helps put it in perspective. It was written by Erik Brynjolfsson, who's an MIT professor, and he wrote The Second Machine Age, which came out last year. And he's comparing today's time to the Industrial Revolution. And when he did that comparison, he looked at the Industrial Revolution. It really took about 30 years for society to realize the impact of the steam engine and all of the new capabilities that were being brought to bear. And in many ways, we're seeing the same type of time frame occur here. Because about 30 years ago, the PC came out in the 80s, and now businesses are truly able to leverage the power of this information age through cloud computing, and we really do feel that we're in the very early stages of this. So if you're looking for a book to read towards the end of the summer, I recommend The Second Machine Age by Erik Brynjolfsson. When we think about our marketplace, there's one thing that I'm always speaking to firms about, and that's managing complexity. And this slide shows a lot of the complexity that firms are dealing with their clients. Things are related to the tax code and compliance and standards in new technology capabilities. And when you think about this slide here, it represents both the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge for the profession. So this is what our business is all about. Our business is all about managing these compliance services and these advisory services for our clients. So that's the opportunity, but there's also the challenge of how do you do it all? And one clear way to do it is to leverage technology, and you've got the cloud right here in the center, and it's amazing how the cloud is changing the landscape in the way these services can be provided to your clients and managed for your clients. So the growth of cloud computing. It has been around for about a decade. It was called ASB maybe at the start of in the early 2000s. Now cloud computing is the term. But what's happened over the last couple of years is small businesses have moved to the cloud, and on this slide here I'm highlighting some of the activities just over the past year. I've noted on the far right, how accountants world has been thinking about this for a while, but some of these other data points are related to activities over the past year. And you look at what Xero's done. I mean, Xero, they raised $150 million last fall. They've made a big mark with small businesses. They have woken up in many ways Intuit. Intuit now has 500,000 users leveraging their online version of QuickBooks, and they are completely committed to the cloud. Cashew, a small a cloud-based accounting software provider in Canada, is just recently had an equity investment by Paychex. One thing about the cloud is it has no borders. So Xero is based out of New Zealand, Cashew is based out of Canada. Bill.com and Intact are two partners that we work closely with, and they've experienced tremendous growth and also increased interest from the VC community. So this is fantastic. This is a great news story for the profession. A lot of investment is changing how the small business clients operate, and there's a lot of investment around how firms can better operate in this environment. So I'm going to be talking more about this later, but one thing that this does do is it makes things a little bit more complex. There's more decisions for the firm and the client to make, and I'm going to talk about that later in the presentation. Let's move. So what does this mean for your practice? Where do you want to start? One thing that we've been leveraging with firms in some of our strategy workshops is Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. Simon Sinek has one of the top 10 most viewed TED Talks. Just Google TED Talks, and you can go to that site. And this is a 20-minute video related to the strategy of business and how you need to define it to build success. And it all starts with the why. I mean, too many businesses jump to the how and the what. How are we going to do it and what are we going to do? Where you really need to start with your purpose. What's your business purpose? What value are you going to be providing in these disruptive times? And with so much change going on, it's very important for you to spend a little bit of time on your why, on the purpose of your firm, and not just get to the question of, what technology solution do I need to put in place, and, what changes do I need to make to my services. So this is something that I do encourage you to think about. We also have a video on our site where I'm doing an interview with Simon Sinek, and he's talking specifically about the accounting profession and why it's so important for firms to think about this. Our why, I mentioned that earlier, is about empowering CPAs and businesses for the digital age. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we think about every day, and it's helped us, drive our business strategy. And what's your purpose? And this slide here highlights some of the discussions that I have with firm partners and small firms. What I'm hearing more and more is that firms want to play that trusted business advisor role. Yes, compliance services, the tax services are still very important. If you're a firm doing audits is a great business line. But more and more firms are thinking more about the trusted business advisor category. And they're also thinking quite differently about what was historically, write-up or bookkeeping, and they're thinking about, big data and business insights. So I encourage you all to think a little bit about the why that if you're talking to one of your clients or you're talking to one of your peers, how would you best describe the purpose of your firm, and that will help you, make some of these technology platform decisions, and it'll also help you determine, what types of services you want to provide in the years ahead. What I'm showing on this slide is Gartner's hype cycle. Gartner is one of the leading technology consulting firms in America, and they put this together. And this is a great way to kind of, understand what's happening in the marketplace. They have this broken into five quadrants: the technology trigger, the peak of inflated expectations, a trough of disillusionment, the slope of alignment, and the plateau of productivity. And let me build this slide for you here. And I'm just going to build it out. And this, they haven't released, the last time I checked, they have not released their 2014 emerging technology hype cycle. This is how they had it mapped last year. So both big data and cloud computing will have moved forward. But this is important. I mean, because right now, big data, everyone's talking about big data. It's at the peak of inflated expectations. But it's real, and it's going to transform how information is digested by businesses. But you need to understand that that's where it is in the technology cycle, where cloud computing now really is moving more into the plateau of productivity. I mean, there's people that in this trough of disillusionment where they're saying, hey, there's a lot of people come out and question the value. So you just need to, when things are really high, don't get too carried away with what maybe that technology will be able to deliver, and at the same instance, realize that after things are talked up a lot, the press kind of knocks them down, and then they eventually move into a period of real increased productivity for society. What we have found to be very, very helpful is Geoffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm chart. And that's what's being displayed right now on the slide. And Geoffrey Moore wrote Crossing the Chasm back in the 90s. And this book is, Geoffrey Moore is one of the great, business and technology strategists of our time. And this book has been a blueprint for the last 25 years for every technology company when they go to market on how technologies are eventually adopted in the marketplace. You have the early phase where the innovators and early adopters are leveraging the new technology. And then you have this phase where we call the chasm, and you have to move from the early adopters to the early majority. And the early adopters sometimes are called visionaries, and the early majority are called pragmatists. And Moore right now feels that with the cloud, we have moved into the pragmatist phase. And when you look at, you see this bowling ball and these pins. And when you're entering the early majority, the pragmatist phase of a technology adoption period, it occurs in vertical markets. And when you think about the CPA profession, it is occurring, in vertical markets. And those vertical markets for accounting services are categories such as the not-for-profit market, professional services, doctors and dentists, private equity, venture capital, franchises. So I'm going to talk a little bit more later in the presentation about some of these verticals, but that's what's happening. We're seeing firms have the most success by focusing on a couple of verticals that have higher pain points. You know, if you're an owner of 3 franchises, you know, leveraging, you know, web-based accounting that can do consolidation of those 3 franchises is of great value. If you're a small not-for-profit and you have complex accounting needs and you cannot maintain your internal bookkeeper, outsourcing that, you know, through a web-based accounting solution to a qualified CPA firm is of great value. So that's how it is being adopted in the accounting marketplace, and more broadly, this is how technology gets adopted in other categories. So we're in the pragmatist stage, and you know, I think with the way things are going, it's not. And we're going to be doing some surveys here on this call to see where this group stands, but we probably will be, you know, moving into the late majority faster than we all think. So how are you working? I think we actually now, Div, have a poll that we want to run.
That's right. So let me go ahead and put up the first poll. And just a reminder, all 3 of the poll questions are required. You're required to submit a response to each of the 3 poll questions in order to receive CPA credit, so please go ahead and do so now. The first poll is open. The question is, how often are you using cloud solutions to produce client work? 0% of the time, 1 to 25%, 26 to 50, 50 to 75, or 76 plus. Please select the option that best represents your firm and click Submit. And we're seeing responses come in. We'll give about 15 more seconds here for people to vote. And just a reminder again, voting is required in order to receive CPE. Okay, we'll give 5 more seconds here. Okay, and let's go ahead and close that out. And so, Erik, we see here over 2/3 of attendees are either at 0% or 1 to 25% right now. That's kind of an interesting result.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, so you've got over 50% below 25%. We've only got here about, you know, so 18% using more than 50%. I look forward to some of the follow-on poll questions just to understand this a little further. But you know, this is somewhat in line with what we're seeing. So with that, let me continue on. How's the volume now, Div? Have you got any more comments on that?
It seems to be better, still a little bit on the low side, but better than it was before.
Okay, let me, it's amazing. I've never been told that. Let me see. There we go. I just turned, hopefully that helped. I just turned the volume up a little bit higher. Okay, how are you working? So we talked a little bit about the why. You know, we've talked about the marketplace here. You know, where we're seeing the adoption standing in the profession. We do think we've crossed the chasm. We're in the early majority. But let's talk a little bit more about how firms are working. This is best of breed versus suite. This is something that you know, we've been talking about for a long time, and I think right now it's really a combination because all of the smart suite vendors, be it a CCH, CCH or say Intuit, they're really building more open architecture systems that allow you to integrate with others. But clearly, you know, with cloud computing, this best-of-breed concept is one that is continuing to gain traction. You got a company like Accountants World who's done development of some solutions, and you've got point solutions like Bill.com and bill payment, and it is hard for some of the suite players to keep up with that level of innovation. And since these systems now are not local, they're not in the small business does not have them in their local environment. They're accessing them through the cloud. The integration and the APIs between these systems are being managed by others. There's still work that needs to be done. They're not perfect, but they're getting better every day. And on the consumer side, you're continuing to see a lot of this. You see a tremendous amount of integration, between Facebook and other applications, Google Maps and other applications. So you're going to see more and more of this in the small business side. And so I just would encourage you that I think that makes sense. It makes sense for you to be looking at the best of breed. And with that said, to make sure you're doing the proper due diligence with these new companies, making sure that they are going through third-party assurance around their security measures. The SOC 2 reports are something that you should look for, ask for. But this is what we're seeing a lot of firms lean towards is best of breed. Another thing that we're seeing is that the adoption is widespread. This clearly is not something that just small firms are doing or just large firms. We're working closely with 30 to 40% of the top 100 now with some of the solutions that we're providing, and as well as a lot of the top 500 and a lot of small firms. So this is just a sampling. This is a sampling of firms that CPA.com is working with in the cloud through one of our solutions, and it's well over 1,000 firms now that we're seeing that are leveraging these new capabilities. And one thing that I think is great is that it is the great equalizer. For example, like Cheney and Associates here. Steve Cheney runs his firm out of California. Maybe some of you have heard of Steve Cheney. We actually have a case study related to what his firm has done, but they focus on on faith-based institutions, on churches. And my understanding, based on the last time I talked to Steve, he's a firm of around 10. They've got over 1,000 churches that they're doing the accounting services for, and he's offering similar capabilities through the platform that he's providing to what McGladrey's doing. McGladrey's focused on client accounting, and they're building out a big client accounting practice. But I know there's a lot of smaller sized firms on today's call, and I just think this is fantastic that the capabilities that you can put in place with some of these accounting platforms really equals the playing field in a very significant fashion. And then the other thing you should note is that the adoption really is occurring, and it's rather widespread. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive, and I think this is something that hopefully a lot of you will have some takeaways on. I'm going to highlight trends and strategies that 3 firms have put in place for working in client accounting specifically, in leveraging these web-based, cloud-based solutions. And these firms are of 3 different sizes. The first firm I'm going to talk about is Eid Bailey, and Victor Pucci is the director of accounting services at that firm. And these are some slides he put together and he was on a panel with me recently, and that's when he built these slides for that session. Maribel Torres Pinero is the director of client accounting services at a small firm. It's a firm of about 10, and they're based in Washington D.C. And then finally, Fesnick Associates, a Pennsylvania firm that's mid-sized, and Nicole is the senior manager leading their accounting services area. So let me get into it. If there are questions, Div, please jump in here. So first off, strategy for getting started. How do you get started? It seems like there was a number of people based on the last poll that maybe haven't gotten started. 33% at 0%. So you need to think differently about this than your current offerings. If you say, same service, I'm doing, some write-up, some bookkeeping, check paying, and I'm just going to do that on a different platform, that is not likely to work long term, and we've seen a lot of firms, fail at just trying to say, you know what, I want to take these new platforms and do exactly what I'm doing. You need to rethink your business workflow. You do need to be more more of a consultant here. Screen sharing is now paused. Are you okay there? Is there any, Sharon or Div, is there issues right now?
I'm seeing the strategy for getting started Victor Pucci slide right now.
Okay, good. You do need to move to being an advisor versus an expert related to the compliance services, and that is a shift for some firms because it is a slightly different soft skill set. If it's a larger firm, you clearly need to secure the key stakeholder buy-in, and then you need to put in place a transition plan with your personnel and training and timing, and develop a pricing model. Let me just talk a little bit about pricing. We're seeing firms around client accounting, and when I say client accounting, that's providing, like, say, a virtual controller service for a small business, the accounting, the bill payment, the payroll, and firms are charging, at the low end, $2,000 a month, and I say that yes, at the low end, it probably makes sense to try to make that your floor, and they're charging up to $5, $6, $7, even at times if it's complex, up to $10,000 a month. But probably the main range is around $2,000 to $6,000 a month for providing the accounting services, the bill payment, and the payroll, and acting as that virtual controller. So strategy for an established digital practice. How do you grow it once you've got it going? It's all about the vertical specialty. That's critical. You really got to say, what niches do you want to be famous for in your local area? Is it restaurant franchises? Is it we got a firm that's just doing chiropractor offices? Is it not-for-profits? What type of not-for-profit do you want to do? Improve on your inquiry techniques. You need to think about how you do that initial assessment of your clients, and growing your services. Think about how the cloud vendors. The one thing, since we are entering the pragmatic phase, the vendor training is getting a lot better. We've got some practice development workshops that cover a lot of what I'm saying in much greater detail. Accountants World, I know, has a lot of training, and all of the vendors out there are working harder and harder at putting better training in place, and that can help you grow. Then finally, here, just grow your talent. I'm going to be talking about that later on in this webcast. It is all about the talent. I say that the most important thing is the change management process, the change leadership inside your firm, then the talent, and then the technology is actually the easier part. So now moving to some of the challenges for getting started that Mario Bellatore has Panaro outlined. And again, she's a small firm. How do you repurpose clients? Will your clients fit the new model? That's something you need to think about. We're finding a lot of times that firms are finding the most success by, starting out with some of their newer clients when they first roll out some of these new client accounting services via a cloud platform, or they're assessing their existing clients' appetite for change. I mean, if you've got a client that's very conservative or a laggard, you don't want to push them. But if you've got a client that's more of an innovator, clearly this is something that they'll find great value in, and you'll probably be doing something to retain that client by moving them onto a more modern platform. Repurposing of staff. You need to bring staff along in this journey, and Maribel did a great job with that. She brought some of her staff. She first kind of became more aware of this, attending some key profession events, and then said, you know what, I went back to my office and I explained it, and they had like blank stares. So I brought some of them back with me to the next training event, and that really brought them along. Some additional challenges: technology adoption. Lack of understanding. Everyone's got, the one thing about this revolution that we're all seeing, it's being led on the consumer side. So more and more people are very, very aware of all the capabilities that the iPad offers them, how it changes everything from restaurant reservations to booking a taxi. So they're getting it. So there's less of this needed. But one thing in the business environment where you can lead with easy things are things such as WebEx and training on YouTube. More and more firms cut a short video on YouTube and you use that as training. And patience. Patience is required depending on where your clients are in the adoption curve. The staff adoption related to technology. Coaching. You're gonna hopefully have maybe some young staff at your firm that can maybe be your trailblazers, and then focus on the culture, the overall culture, and look for the staff that are going to be the best fit. And there might be some people that are not going to be a fit long term, and that's something you need to think through as the leader of the firm. So now let me move to Nicole Kaziak. She's a mid-sized firm in Pennsylvania, and they've really have found, all three of these firms have found real success building very meaningful client accounting practices. So here's Nicole looking at some of the opportunities for the digital practice. It's a better client experience. The passion that I see firms have, a few events that I've held related to this. They feel like this is a movement. It's a different time for the profession. It's so exciting. It's deepening the relationships with the client. It's why a lot of people became a CPA. It's viewed so differently than some of the compliance services. So continuing on here, how did you go about some of this? One key step internally is to consolidate to one platform, and that's related to client accounting. This isn't about suite, as I was talking earlier. This is about moving to one platform from a standpoint of your accounting system. It's amazing that some firms have let their small business clients dictate what accounting package they're on, and a mid-sized firm or a large firm could have 7 or 8 different accounting packages. That doesn't happen. That would not happen in the tax and audit space, and you need to standardize your process. And one thing that you want to do is you don't want to really be discussing your technology platform with your clients. That doesn't make any sense. Just like you wouldn't be discussing your tax platform with your clients. Training. How do they make the most of the opportunity? You need to train. There's required investment. Firms that a year later they're like they make some decisions on moving forward with new packages, and a year later they've seen they've seen frustration internally, maybe with a couple of the clients that they've tried to migrate onto the new platform. They had bad onboarding experiences, and a lot of times it just comes down to they just did not invest enough in the training of their staff for these new systems and for the change that was required related to moving forward with a new way of operating. So what are you providing? Before we do that, I think we're going to do another poll here. So let me hand it over to you to do the poll, Div.
Thanks, Eric. And by the way, a question just came in talking about the struggle of moving clients to one platform and said, we've fired a lot of clients that don't fit our new cloud-based model. Could you speak to that a little bit while I get the poll up?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was said by one of the attendees. I mean, it is a time where you need to evaluate some of your clients, and it is a challenge, because what's happened over the last 20 years is, QuickBooks, before QuickBooks came out in the early 90s, firms were doing, more of this outsourced accounting services. And then in the 90s, QuickBooks came out, and it was the time of kind of empowerment with some small businesses, and they said you can do it all. And they said, here with this software, you can run your accounting. And small businesses did that for about a decade. Then they realized, you know what, my business is going to do better if I focus on my core business. If it's a restaurant, running a restaurant. If it's a not-for-profit, it's out there, doing whatever the association or fundraising work that not-for-profit should do, and not the back office. So, and what has come around with the cloud is the ability to now, outsource your back office to a CPA firm. But there's still that mindset that some of these business owners made the decision on their accounting package. So that is a hurdle that you need to get over. And also, there's another way of looking at this. It's called, if you've got some clients that are like do-it-yourselfers. They just want to be a do-it-yourselfer. They're not looking to delegate the work and maybe or collaborate with the firm. Delegate or collaborate with the firm. If they really want to do it themselves, then you're probably best off just referring them to a particular technology solution. And I think when clients, existing clients or new clients come up to you, you need to decide, am I better off just referring them to a technology solution? And maybe there's some different technology solutions out there. I know Accountants World only sells to accountants, but at times you do need to make a referral. There's times when you do not want to be doing their accounting. And maybe Xero. Xero's a new platform. QuickBooks, you're never going to go wrong with that on a low-end referral. But these are things that, then as I said earlier, it's getting more complex. It is getting more complex. You need to decide when you want to have a, and you focus on a niche market, be it restaurants, be it not-for-profits, professional services, that they fit what you want to do. Then you want to take them on. You want them to delegate the work to you. You want them to value it and pay you $2,000 a month. And then there's some clients that really just want to do it themselves, that they probably don't have the funds to hire a real professional business advisor, and they're probably best left doing it themselves, and maybe you can just do their tax return. So with that, let's just let's look at the poll here. It looks like why don't you review this, Tiv?
Sure. So we have the poll open right now. If you have not voted yet, please do so. I'll keep this open for another 15, 20 seconds here. The question is, what was your catalyst for using cloud technology? Not using it, clients were requesting it, reduce internal IT costs, gain efficiency, or increase service level. And you can select all that apply here. So we'll take just a few more seconds. And remember, after you select all the ones that apply, please click the submit button for your vote to be counted. And we'll take just a couple more seconds here. Okay, let's go ahead and close that out. And so, Eric, if you see the results in front of you, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this here, 38% not using it, so that fits with what we're seeing. I still think we're in the early majority phase. 11% clients requesting it. No surprise there. I could even see that number being higher, because this technology revolution is being led on the consumer side, so B2B is coming second. So more and more clients are going to say, hey, I'm doing this on my is how I run my personal life. I want to run my business life like this. Reducing internal IT costs, yeah. Gain efficiency, increase service level. So I think those two, I think over time you'll see the increased service level and gain efficiency to get higher. So this all directionally is in line with what I'm seeing. So any other questions out there that we want to maybe take?
I think those were the main ones.
All right, great. So let me move on now. So client expectations are evolving, kind of, which was highlighted in that last poll there. And you need to think about, it's not just about technology. You need to think about what is your base strategy. Do you want to just be a transactional provider? Do you want to, do more? But I'll say.
Excuse me, Eric. I
Yeah.
think we're not seeing the slides right now. So if you could bring those back up.
Okay. Did you push it over to me? Show me.
Yep, should be.
Okay, hold on here.
You may just need to re-click the Show My Screen button.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can you
Thank
see
you.
it now? Okay, we back into presentation mode there?
Yes, we are. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, so client expectations are evolving. It's not just about technology. You need to think about, do you want to be a digital bookkeeper, transactional? And what I'll say there, if that's what you're looking to do, to not necessarily, focus on a vertical or niche, develop some type of business insights, on the trusted advisor side, you're going to be competing with a lot of bookkeepers, a lot of non-CPA and accounting firms, and that area is going to become more and more commoditized. There's going to be a lot of pricing pressures related to that. The technology is going to get better and better around the transactional. So if you better be really good if you're going to do horizontal transactional bookkeeping services. You better be the low-cost provider. You better be the Amazon of the accounting space, which is not easy. So that's I would recommend when we look at these steps here to think about your workflow, to think about standardization in your processing, to work on setting up standard chart of accounts and onboarding processes, and going and doing we've got steps to help you with doing client assessments. You go there and you assess how your client's operating today, and you map that out with workflow tools, and then you bring it back to your office and you say, okay, now this is how it would make a lot more sense for them to do their bill processing. Maybe you're looking at their accounts receivable process, looking at all of the ways that the business operates their back office, and you go back with recommendations on how they can run things more efficiently. And then on top of everything else, you're beginning to understand your business categories more, just like you do on the tax side. The firms that have built great success in tax have specialties. So this is none of this is new. It's just we're talking a lot about client accounting today. It is new in some ways for firms, really looking to kind of win in this category. So I do think you're going to see over time. And H&R Block, this transactional category, H&R Block just announced that they are going to really be ramping up their client accounting services. So I think you're going to see that. Do you want to be competing against them like you compete? I think a lot of firms don't want to compete against H&R Block for the tax return. Give those low-end tax returns to H&R Block or to TurboTax. That's business you don't want. You want the high-value, high-end work. So that's what we're seeing as a winning strategy, and that's what I highlighted a lot in those last few slides. So key drivers of the movement. Sometimes, it's always good to go back to the basics. What do we see here? These are four key elements of the movement to the cloud. It's about, if I had to say one word, it's collaboration. It's collaboration between the client and the accounting firm. It's business intelligence. We think that the small businesses are now entering the information age. Because of the ability here to get advisors like CPA firms and big data and other insights to their business, to anytime, anywhere access. Businesses are operating anytime, anywhere. Firms are doing that. More and more firms are changing their staffing strategies, and it's absolutely much more scalable, more efficient when you've outsourced the IT. And this isn't just outsourcing your data center. Sometimes people, there's a lot of companies that will come to you and say, we'll take your existing environment and just put it, they might even say they'll put it in the cloud. All they're doing is putting it into a data center. You need to be, the way to make it scalable and more efficient is to be using companies like, Salesforce.com that are truly, cloud SaaS providers. It's software as a service. The Intacs, the Bill.coms. It's not just taking one of your applications in-house and like hosted QuickBooks. Yeah, the online version of QuickBooks, yes, but hosted versions of your software in data centers is not where it's at. So I want to highlight one thing that I think is very important.
Hey, Erik?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There was a question that came in, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in with that question.
Yeah.
Someone asked, regarding pricing models, what are the key criteria that should be evaluated when preparing a price for a proposal? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot of things that need to go into that. Actually, I think we've got a pricing tool that we've developed. I think you need to do assessments of how much processing work will be done related to the bill payments, related to the entries into the system, and there's a lot of factors that go into analyzing what the workload will be for that client, and that's why the assessment is such a critical part. I mean, you really do, before you talk price, you need to go in there and assess how they're currently operating, and then come back and look and say, okay, this is how we're going to operate that client. And then there's a number of different categories and worksheets that you can leverage that can add up the amount of time you'll be spending on that particular client. So moving on to a standard that I think is really going to change how a lot of firms look at client accounting. And it's the new Compilation Preparation Standard. I mean, this slide for some reason wasn't updated, but the exposure draft period ended on May 2nd. It now has entered, it's entering the early adoption phase, which will occur in the fourth quarter of this year, and then the standard will be in place in 2015. And one of the key drivers and I'm going to review it on my next slide here, kind of explain what it's all about. But one of the key drivers was cloud computing has made it difficult to determine who has prepared the financial statements. And that is one of the major drivers of why there's going to be a new preparation standard for firms. And what it's going to do is going to provide a bright line between accounting services and reporting services. And the new financial statement preparation standard will not require you to consider whether you're independent, even when the financial statements are going to be used outside of management, be used by third parties. So let me go to the next slide here. So compilation versus preparation. This is highlighting. This is from a Journal of Accountancy article on it, the differences between the new Compilation Preparation Service Standard. So when does the standard apply? A compilation, when an accountant is engaged to perform a compilation. You have the audit, you have the review, and you have compilation. So if you're engaged to perform a compilation, there's a lot of value in the compilation. Is an engagement letter required? Yes. Is the accountant required to determine if he or she is independent? Yes. If the accountant is not independent, is that fact required to be disclosed? Yes. And this is one of the big things that caused problems historically, was when someone was providing accounting services, then they would have to say, well, we're not independent, and all the client really wanted was the preparation. They didn't want a compilation. Does the engagement require a report? Yes. For compilation, may the financial statements go to users outside of management? Yes. May the financial statements omit notes? Yes. So now preparation, I mean, the key things that are different is, does the accountant need to require that she's independent? The answer is no. Does the engagement require a report? No. There's going to be maybe a legend disclosure required, but this is a big move, and a number of firms have told me they're going to early adopt, and they're going to really look at client accounting in a different way because this bright line's been established. So empowering CPAs in a digital world, I mean, I've covered all of this today. This is how we rank it. It's process and change management, number one. Your talent strategy is the number two issue. Technology is the easy thing. There's a lot of great companies out there doing a lot of work in this category. So think about your process and change management, your talent strategy. Leave you with one final quote. A very smart person, Larry Summers, who is treasurer, and he, as well as president of Harvard University. He also helped Obama and Bush mitigate a lot of the issues through the Great Recession. What he states, what globalization was the economic debates of the 20th century, technology change is the early 21st century. And I think we are. We're going to look back on this era, and we're going to be shocked at what this technology change has done to the business landscape in America, and accounting firms are playing a huge role with that. So I think we have one more question, and then I've got some of the resources that I've referenced. I'll highlight where you can find them on my last slide, but let's move to our final poll question.
Sounds great. I will go ahead and open up the third poll here. And the poll is now open. The question is, how long have you used cloud technology? Less than a year, 1 to 3, 4 to 6 years, more than 7 years, or not currently using cloud technology. So please go ahead and vote at this point. Click Submit. Reminder that poll submission is required in order to receive CP credit for this. And we'll take about 15 more seconds here for people to vote.
So this is great. I mean, you've got the early adopters here, Div, at 7%, more than 7 years. 11%, 4 to 6. So 33%, 1 to 3. So you add that up, and you got close to 50. So I think we're right. We're in the early majority. Potentially getting close to the greater majority. So we've got, just quickly, there's workshops at Accountants World. We've got a roadmap to profitability. It's a 2-day workshop, goes over things such as pricing strategy, business strategy in depth, goes over things about writing a new engagement letter for client accounting, talks about the verticals in greater depth. We've got white papers, Harness the Power of the Cloud, talks about the 4 different stages of building a client accounting practice. That's a free white paper. Case studies on key verticals, they're all available on CPA.com, and we got a lot of interviews with thought leaders related to this. So all that's on CPA.com. We also have a big our digital CPA conference coming up in Washington D.C. with a lot of firms have leveraged this to kind of better understand what's going on in this whole digital era, in particular client accounting in the cloud. So thanks for having me today. This has been fantastic, and hope this was valuable to the Accountants World community and Accountants World, Chandra and team, and are just, you guys are continuing to innovate, and you guys have been ahead of the curve for the past decade. So thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Erik, very much for joining us today. We really appreciated this. If you haven't already downloaded Erik's presentation, please go ahead and do so. It'll be available on our website under Expert Webinar Series, and we'll also include a link to that in the email as well. At this point, I'm going to switch back over here to myself. And before we close out here, and soon I'll close out the webinar, and you'll be able to do the post-webinar survey. Please fill that out in order to receive CP as well, and so we have your information. I just want to mention briefly, one of the things that Accountants World has been thinking about and doing over the past couple of months, I think aligns very much with what Erik has been talking about today. We're offering a free review to help accountants understand what the cloud can do for their specific bottom line. As Erik mentioned, cloud technology for accountants has moved past the visionary or early adopter stage. We're now firmly into the early majority stage. And Accountants World is already helping thousands of firms, from some of the top 100 firms mentioned in today's presentation to sole practitioners, helping them to improve their processes, increase their earnings, and we believe that we can do the same for you as well. So we're offering a complimentary review. This will be a personalized review where you'll learn 8 different ways to increase your earnings using the power of the cloud. And even better, you'll be able to estimate the actual earnings increase for your own practice given some of the parameters and specifics of your firm. So if you're interested, please call 888-999-1366 for this free, no-obligation analysis of your firm and how much more you could be earning with cloud solutions, or visit accountantsworld.com. Our main panel there talks about our cloud workshops and cloud worksheets as well, which you can use to help you determine how much of an impact our cloud solutions could have for you. Finally, I want to thank you again for attending. As soon as I close out the webinar, or when you close out the webinar, you will see the CP survey come up in your browser screen. That'll happen after you exit the webinar, and a link to the survey will also be sent by email tomorrow. So if for some reason you don't see it today, don't worry, you'll see it in the email that's coming shortly. You do not need to complete the email survey. If you submitted the online survey, they're exactly the same. CPA certificates will be issued within 2, maybe 3 business days, pending confirmation of active webinar participation. So again, we want to thank all of you for attending today. Thanks to Erik Asgeirsson for joining us today for his terrific presentation. If you have any other questions for Erik or for us, please feel free to write in. We'll be around for a few minutes longer and can answer those for you. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you on September 10th for our next webinar.